Falcon View. My name's Todd Walker. I'm the radio voice of the Falcons, and we're here to talk with men's basketball coach Chris Jans, as he's been on the job for about 2.5 months or something around there, and we'll talk with him about what's been happening in that time. Coach, welcome to Falcon View. Good to see you again.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate being here.
Let's go back to March 25th. That was the day of your introductory press conference, so let's do some quick math. April, May, maybe not even 2.5 months, right? It's been a whirlwind so far. Just generally talk to the Falcon fans about the work that you've put in already here in just over 2 months.
It's been fast and furious for sure, but it's been fun as well. I think it's been about 8.5 weeks now. The first 4 or 5 weeks, to be honest with you, are a blur right now. There's a lot to be done. You know, we hit the ground running and basically had to, fill, once the dust settled, the 4 remaining 2014 scholarships. And certainly a priority of mine was to get to know the 9 scholarship players that I inherited, and then a handful of walk-ons as well, and just get underneath them as people and figure out where they were academically and make sure we were on the same page moving forward. And so I spent as much time with the returnees as possible, but at the same time, had a lot of other things that we're trying to get done with the hiring of new staff and signing of our new players. So had to prioritize, what was important, and the underlying current for me is and always will be recruiting. When we had to make a decision between doing one thing or another, we chose recruiting, and certainly once I started hiring some folks to work alongside me, things slowed down a little bit.
Before we talk about some of the recruits you have in and the guys that you've brought on staff, your general thoughts on the 9 holdover scholarship players and their reaction to you, your interaction with them. Might some guys, have their position massaged a little bit? I know it's very early, but your read on the returnees.
Well, they've been great. From day one, I was impressed with their attentiveness, with their ability to be receptive to new ideas and to the culture that we're going to try to build here at BGSU. Certainly when they were dreaming about playing Division I basketball, going through a coaching change wasn't something that they signed up for. It's not something you think about when you're signing those papers and deciding to go to this institution. So I told them all, individually and collectively, that I understand for the most part where they're at, and if they wanted to look around, there'd be no hard feelings. And I think moving forward for our staff, the exciting thing is that all of them, to a man, love being a student at BG. And so for the future, that's exciting, knowing they like the experience of being a student athlete here. They enjoy being a part of this community and being a part of this institution. So none of them expressed a desire to leave, and I kept all 9. And they've been great. Certainly there'll be bumps in the road along the way with new ideas and a new way of thinking, a new culture. And we were fortunate that I got the job early enough in the spring that we had 5 practices, 1-hour practices on the floor per NCAA rules, and a couple individuals as well. So it really helped me going forward, knowing more about their skill set and what positions I felt like we needed to add to the mix that I inherited.
You kind of led into where I wanted to go next. You talked about 5 practices with the returnees. What was the general take of those practices? Did you just kind of let them play together going up and down, or did you want to look at them in drill situations? What were you looking for?
A little bit of everything, to be honest with you. Kind of want to set the tone. Want to put some things in right away. That they'd have an idea of how we would play. Try to get them excited about some offensive schemes that would be put in place that, are more players' offense than anything else, real simple stuff. But I think most players like playing in that style. But at the same time, wanted to get a feel for, the individual ability that they had, the skill sets that they had, the positions that I felt they were going to play in our system. So it was a little bit of both to get a little bit of our system and culture in, but at the same time do some evaluating. So I had a better feel of exactly what we needed in that 2014 class.
Well, then you went to work recruiting, and you end up signing 4 players to come here to BGSU. And we don't want to get a complete in-depth analysis of all of them, but I believe Pepe Joseph was the first one. And talk about why you went after him and what need you think he can fill for you.
He was the first one. Scott Raines is the head coach at Howard Junior College, and one of my previous coaching stops, I was actually the head coach at Howard. So I was going, quote-unquote, back home, if you will. And went down there and evaluated him and really trusted Coach Raines and knew a lot of the coaches in that league. And every one of those coaches had positive things to say about Pepe as a player and as a person, and certainly as a competitor. So, you know, he's just a body-ready, tough kid that knows how to play, takes care of the ball, is a good decision maker, can really shoot the ball from the perimeter, and because of his size and shooting ability, he can play both positions, which I really like in my guards. So we're excited to have him as the first one to sign on the dotted line.
And a couple of other guys you brought in were actually teammates at Paris Junior College, Javon Austin, Delvin, Dickerson. What about these two guys in general? Where might they fit in on the future Falcon?
Well, coincidentally, I went over to Paris on the same trip I went to Howard from West Texas to East Texas and spent a day with Coach Taylor down there, who I've known for a long time, and watched those guys work out, and just was really impressed with both of those young men. And we told them from the onset that this wasn't a package deal, that we were recruiting them as individuals, but we also felt at the same time if we got one of them, it would be a domino effect and the other one would follow suit. So, you know, we were fortunate that they decided to take a visit together and, you know, enjoyed their time here at BGSU, and they both decided obviously to commit as well. And Jovan individually is another point guard, lefty, great athleticism, great size, should be an elite defender with time. Really good decision maker as well, and just kind of one of those guys that's people talk about as a straw that stirs the drink. They had a tremendous basketball team at Paris this year. They made the national tournament. They won the conference tournament, regular season and conference tournament championship, and qualified for Hutch. So he was the leader of that team and had 5 or 6 Division I signees, and we're certainly excited about him. And then Delvin Dickerson's a high-level player. He's a stretch 4 that, you know, has the unique ability to not only set ball screens and pick and pop, but at the same time can use ball screens as well. And I love guys that are that flexible to be able to do that offensively, and he'll be able to guard multiple positions as well. So both of those guys, I think, will be able to walk right in and help us next year.
You were also able to assign Rasheed Warlow. I hope I'm saying that right. And he's a high school kid. He was going to go to Appalachian State. They had a coaching change, and he was able to change his mind and switch directions. So a guy with 4 years of eligibility coming in. What about him?
Well, Rasheed's someone that we recruited at Wichita State last summer, so I was familiar with him and his people. And then, like you said, he signed at Appalachian State. They went through a coaching change. He elected to look around. And, you know, we were the fortunate ones that we had that relationship, you know, prior to coming here, and kind of rekindled that and went down there and spent some time with him and his people. And then, like all of the other 3, he elected to come on a visit and just really liked what he saw and what he heard, and decided to join the family, and just really excited about him. You know, he's epitomizes what our staff will look for in our student athletes moving forward. He's overall just a sound young man, well-mannered, well-spoken. I think he'll be a young man that will resonate with this community, and people will really like being around him. He'll represent himself in our program at a high level, and he's a good basketball player too. He's really can run and jump, got a good skill set. Certainly at 205, he needs to spend a lot of time in the weight room going forward.
6'8", 205 is what they list him, but you know, you're right. The weight room will do miracles for these young men once they come to BGSU. In the midst of all this, Coach, you've got to put together your assistant staff, and we want to talk about those guys. And I'm not sure exactly what order they were hired in, but let's start with Corey. He was last at Arkansas State, but talk about your connection, how you came onto him to be an assistant coach, and why.
Well, in most cases, I like to hire people that I'm familiar with and that I have a relationship with, but in my previous junior college head coaching stops, I've also went out of the box and hired people that I didn't know, and I like that too, just because it gives you a different network of recruiting friends and different ideas and different way of doing things. So Corey, you know, filled that spot in terms of I really didn't have a relationship with him, but this industry is small enough, and especially when you've been doing it for 22 years, you can connect the dots to folks pretty easily. And I had a lot of mutual friends with Corey, and they couldn't speak you know, any higher of him in terms of his work ethic, in terms of his approach. And the underlying current with him was always, you know, he's a great recruiter, and you know, he keeps coming at me with names and contacts, and he keeps me working pretty hard. And you know, as a head coach, you love that. You love guys that are on the grind all the time and are always trying to look under each and every rock to try to find players that fit our program. And you'll hear this from me a lot, but I always want guys that are good people and are good citizens and want to be head coaches. I want guys that want to move up the ladder and desire to be a head coach, and Corey certainly fits that bill as well.
Another man you brought on to staff, Mark Downey, was in fact a head coach last year at the University of West Alabama. Talk about if you have a connection to him and his background and what his strengths are.
Well, I've known Mark for 15 plus years. Back in 1998, 1999, when he was fresh out of grad school from Marshall University, I hired him as an assistant at Independence Junior College, and so we worked just 1 year together. And then I moved on to Division I, and he inherited the job that I was at and took that team to the national tournament at Hutch, and then spent some time at New Orleans, Division I assistant, and then he got into the Division II level and been a head coach at that level for the last 8 years at 3 different programs, and has taken three different teams to their respective national tournaments. So he's had a lot of success as a head coach, and I like that. I like a guy that's been there, done that, and you know, I'll be able to lean on him in certain situations, and certainly, like I talked about with Corey, you know, having someone that I don't know and expanding our network is great, but at the same time, having someone that knows me and gets me, and vice versa for me is comforting as well. So Mark's going to be a valuable addition for us.
And the third man on your staff, for purposes of our discussion, was a guy that you were butting heads with, so to speak. He was an assistant at Indiana State, also was a head coach himself at Vincennes College, a well-known junior college. David Ragland, talk about bringing him on.
Like you said, Coach Rags and I competed as member schools in the Valley for the last 4 years, and they've had a lot of success over there. He works for 2 of my better friends, and Greg Lansing, the head coach, and then Lou Godino, the associate head coach, who I've known both for a long, long time. And so I got to know Rags, you know, through those guys. But you know, again, like Mark, I've known him for almost 10 years. I knew him when he was an assistant in junior college, and then when he was the head coach at Vincennes, I was recruiting some of his players, and then, you know, fostered a relationship while he was in the Valley as well, and just really respected what they did over there. They built a really good program. They beat us in the conference tournament 1 year and ended up losing to Syracuse in the NCAA tournament. And this past year, you know, they finished second to us in the Valley as well, and just really liked his work ethic, liked his demeanor. And I think the one thing when you meet David is everyone says the same thing. Just they come away with just a nice warm feeling. He's the guy that I always say has never met a stranger in his whole life. He's very outgoing and personable, and obviously that serves him well in recruiting. And like you mentioned, I like the fact that he has some head coaching experience as well.
Coach, final thoughts for this edition of Falcon View as we embark on the summer. What are a couple of things that have yet to be done? The head coach is the leader of the organization. A lot of things yet to be done. What are your plans for the next few or several weeks here to round out BGSU basketball heading into the season?
Well, we still got a lot to do. It's slowed down a little bit. We've been able to breathe some, and obviously we're all going through transitions with our individual situations and families and trying to find housing and get our feet underneath us. But basketball-wise, we still have yet to hire a director of basketball operations, and certainly we're trying to seal that up. And then, you know, we got a handful of guys that are in Summer 1 that started May 19th. And then we'll have a full squad of 13 that will be in Summer 3, which begins June 30th. So we're really gearing up for that and trying to get you know, our operations streamlined. And you know, with the loosening up of the rules a couple of years ago, now that we're allowed to, you know, have our hands on our players in the summer, we'll be coaching them in the summer. And it'll be crucial for us that month of July and the first 2 weeks of August of really getting our system in place and working on their skill set and get them to understand, you know, the expectations that we're going to have. But you know, being a new coach and a new staff and a new program, I mean, the loosening of the rules is really going to benefit us. It benefits everybody, but I think more so for the new coaches and new players to get to know one another. So in the fall, it's not such a shock to everybody in terms of how we go about our business. So that's, you know, just a few things to mention that we got going on, but it's going to be a busy, fast and furious summer. And
looking ahead, official practice can begin when?
Oh gosh, I haven't even thought that far ahead. They've changed the rules so much. Last year, it always used to be the Saturday around October 15th, but now they've given you, 40 days from the first date of competition,
so
and you pick 30 of those days. So we don't have our first home game or first, date of competition yet. So I don't even really know the exact start date, but it'll be sometime in September.
Coach, great to talk with you again, and we'll visit when the season is approaching again.
Sounds good time.
Chris Jan's head men's basketball coach here at BGSU. That's Falcon View. My name is Todd Walker. As always, roll along.